Welcome to another episode of Salt Air. I am your host, Janae Andrus, and the Salt Community Manager, and I am here with Tom Hatch, creator of Salt. What's up, Tom?
Hey.
Welcome to Salt Air. This is where we get granular on salt. What did you say, Tom? I talked right over you.
Let's do another one of these.
Let's do another one. They're tons of fun. I love Salt Air. It's where we get granular on salt. And if you want to get granular with us, hit subscribe. Don't miss an episode. We have a lot of fun here. So we are going to dive right in. Today, we're going to talk about salt loaders. How's that sound, Tom?
That sounds great.
The salt loader. This is the original plug-in system. Did I say that right? Is that correct?
Yep. This is the original plug-in system that I built. And it's, I think about the salt loader, and a lot of people don't really think too deeply about the salt loader. It just kind of happens in the background. But years ago, we asked the community and said, what do you think is the most important or the most influential, or what you think is has the most potential as far as just technical concepts inside of salt? And I was really surprised that the vote came back, the salt loader. That people felt that the salt loader was kind of the most innovative thing inside of salt. And I thought that was interesting because, from a marketing, right, from an outreach perspective, it certainly isn't. But for those who who were developers and had been working on the internals, they repeatedly came back and said, this makes working on salt and extending salt so much easier. This makes the way that salt functions so much more flexible and complete. Well,
this is interesting because we have a very involved community, right? And a very intelligent community. And we have an awesome community. Salt is fantastic. We love the SaltProject community. So for them to all come back, and I'm sure it wasn't unanimous, but for the large majority to come back with salt loader, I think that's huge, and definitely one more reason why it's worth spending a little time on today.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I spent a lot of time after that conversation online thinking, how can I expose this concept? How can I develop this concept more? And this is why the salt loader has evolved into plugin oriented programming, and the implementation, the Python implementation of plugin oriented programming called POP that we have today, and that we're using on new projects, and that we use inside of our enterprise and proprietary software.
I think that's fantastic. Well, if you want to expose more about the salt loader, here we are.
So when I started working on Salt, I wanted it to be pluggable so that when you did a remote execution call, it would be really easy to send custom code out to systems for those remote executions. And the Salt loader, originally, I just had a directory called modules, because I was just like, oh, that's where the plugins go. And very, very quickly, I started using the loader to create more plugin subsystems, and had to start coming up with terms and things for plugin subsystems and for the components that are happening inside of those plugin subsystems. And so the end result was that what I originally intended to just be a way to have a very specific set of plugins turned into, over time, inside of Salt, the mechanism that's used to really extend almost everything now inside of Salt, but also the seed to our development for plugin-oriented programming and thinking about software development in a very, very different way. And that's where things have gotten really exciting. And so when we go back and we look at the Salt loader, what it does is it makes it easy to not only have more plugins in Salt, but to have what we call plugin subsystems. And there are over 35 plugin subsystems inside of Salt today.
35?
Yeah.
Over 35.
There's over 35 ways that a developer can easily write a simple Python file and implement one or a few functions and extend a very core piece of functionality inside of Salt. And that extensibility is something which has made Salt so incredibly powerful, especially when it comes to dealing with more complex infrastructure.
I can almost, as you're explaining that, and maybe it's just because I know you, but a lot of the community knows you quite well as well. So maybe I'm not the only one thinking this, But as you're talking, I can almost just see you whiteboarding this. Like, okay, so when this connects to this and plugs into this. So when we're in person again with Salt Air, we might have to revisit Salt Loader with you on a whiteboard.
Well, and we're getting close to being in person again because, I'm vaccinated. You're vaccinated.
Yes, I am.
It's been 3 weeks since I got my second shot. I think I may have actually gotten COVID a week and a half ago.
What?
I felt weird sick. And so I feel like we're super safe.
We're good. And the world's opening up and things are getting better. So we're excited about that. And it's a weird world where we openly like discuss like our medical status of things, in Salt Air, but here we are. Vaccinated. I do have whiteboards behind me in the blurred world behind me. So just saying, like, we're going to have to whiteboard the salt loader.
I would not want to whiteboard on my oil paintings here.
Well, you have gorgeous paintings. I have whiteboards, you have paintings. It's fine. Sometimes we can be opposites. Actually, we were chatting just before the episode and we were doing the opposite things. We jumped on the call and I was like, sorry, I'm finishing a burrito. And he's like, oh, sorry, I'm out of breath. I was working out. I'm like, well, that's fine. So, we can be opposite. It's okay.
Well, the salt loader and this brief discussion about the salt loader makes me think that maybe next time we should talk about how we architect execution paths inside of Salt. Because there's very specific things that I do from a software development perspective that are a little different from what's out there that might be interesting.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch on with the salt loader today?
Not this time, but I think when we talk about plugin-oriented programming, I'll be able to go into a little more depth.
That sounds good. Yeah, you mentioned to me that POP and then plugin-oriented programming are different, and I'm excited to hit on that.
Yep.
Future episodes. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining. Don't miss the future episodes. We've got lots of great plans, obviously. Be sure to subscribe, and we will catch you next time.